Hello, Grinnellians. Welcome to the A Day in the Life podcast. I'm Lizzie Eason, and I am joined by 4 other Grinnell alumni who are going to be answering some frequently asked questions sent in by students. Normally, this is the kind of thing we would like to do in person so we could see all your faces and get your questions live, but I don't know if you guys heard there's a pandemic going around, so we're going to be doing this podcast style this year. So without further ado, we're all going to introduce ourselves very briefly and then dive right into the FAQs. I'm Lizzie Eason. I graduated in 2017 with a major in mathematics and a concentration in statistics. On campus, I was involved in Noteworthy, the a cappella group, and Salseros de Grinnell, the Latin American dancing group, and I did a little bit of theater on the side. Currently, my job is data science specialist, and I build predictive models for a nationwide mutual insurance company.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Niko Takayesu. I graduated in 2017 with a degree in computer science and physics. On campus, I was also in the a cappella group Noteworthy with Lizzie, played some baseball, won a few intramural competitions. So those were my notable achievements on campus. Currently, I am a software engineer at Principal Financial Group, working as a full stack developer, mostly in some combination of Java and JavaScript, working with Node.js apps. And that's a lot of what I do. So,
Hi, my name is Eric Paige. I'm class of 2019. I was an economics major at Grinnell. The only real notable campus involvement I had was I played men's soccer while I was there. And my current job is a business insights analyst for Nationwide small commercial automation team. Yeah.
Hi, so my name is Sydney Devine. I graduated in 2013. I majored in Russian with a concentration in policy studies. I had a great time at Grinnell. I try to be involved with a lot. So I was on the Committee of Academic Standing. I lived in Russian House. I did JUDCO, helped with or participated in the prison program, and was a senator for a semester. Current job title, I am a senior analyst at Nationwide. I work with Lizzie and Eric, and I'm in the business insights department in commercial lines insurance.
All right, hi. My name is Phil Gemmel. I used to be a political science and chemistry major, class of 2017. In terms of campus involvement, I played tennis. I was a student advisor for 2 years. I think currently they're called community advisor, CA. And I was also in the political science SEPC for 2 years. And so currently I am a grad student / PhD candidate at the University of Chicago in chemistry. So I kind of left my political science side behind a little bit. But yeah, I'm now working on the synthesis of complex natural products, so compounds that are produced by plants or marine organisms.
Okay, so the first question we got from students was to generally describe the steps we took between Grinnell College and our current role. So for me, I had an internship the summer after my junior year with Nationwide. And to be honest, I just took it for the money. It was a really good deal. I didn't necessarily know if it was something I was interested in, but it paid well. So I did an internship over the summer. And the internship was actually with the actuarial team, which if you're not familiar with what an actuary is, Google it. It's a very good career. But I did the internship that summer, and I really liked it. I liked the people that I worked with. I liked the company culture. I liked what I was doing. I felt like I was really having an impact on the world by doing math, which is cool because I'm a big math nerd. So after the internship, I got a job offer, and the potential of not having to look for a job all of my senior year was too tempting to pass up. So I took the job offer and I started working at Nationwide right after I graduated. I did have a brief stint in Europe for a while. I did like a 3-week backpack trip with some friends, but then I started working at Nationwide. And yeah, I'm still there. I have had 3 different jobs within Nationwide since I started. So I started on the commercial actuarial team doing pricing segmentation, where I would build models to segment different policyholders based on attributes into different risk categories and price them appropriately. Then I moved on to our advanced analytics team, where I did more machine learning specialized models, and I am currently in our enterprise analytics office, where I do even more specialized advanced models than what I was doing before. Niko, would you like to describe your life path?
Yeah, sure. So, I first of all, I came into Grinnell with no expectation of ever doing anything computer science related. I had zero experience or background in coding. I actually just picked it up on a whim during my second year of college, and almost instantly fell in love with it. So that's kind of how I started to go down that path. Now, post college, I didn't have any jobs lined up. I had started applying in maybe September of my of my last year. I'd started applying to jobs starting from then until like about the end of the year, but nothing was really working out. So I went back home for a few months after graduation. My day to day was basically just wake up, spend the whole day applying to jobs, and then go to sleep. And as unglamorous and not fun as that sounds, it uh, eventually paid off a couple months down the road when I landed my first job as a software developer for TMC Transportation, which is a flatbed trucking company based in Des Moines. I wasn't expecting to come back to Iowa because at that point I was living in Hawaii, but I just figured a job is a job, and might as well just take what I can get. So took the job, was there for about a year and a half, and then a contracting company came to call in and offered me a position as a contractor doing software engineering work for Principal Financial Group. And I was at that point, I think I was ready for a change. I was doing a lot of just very menial, dull one-line code change kind of work on a day-to-day basis. So I think I was just ready to just try something new. So I accepted that position. Had about a 9 or 10 month contract with that place, and then was offered a full-time position at Principal. And that was the full-time position started in, I want to say, January. So I've been there for about half a year now, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with where I'm at right now. I like the culture of the company. I like the direction we're headed, and it's been a pretty good ride so far. So I'm pretty happy.
Nice. All right, Eric, what about you?
My path is pretty similar to Lizzie's, and I guess it's related to hers because she's the one who first recruited me to Nationwide.
Woo-hoo.
But yeah, so basically started when Lizzie showed up and did a presentation for Nationwide at a math seminar thing. So then I went online and applied. It was one of the first internships I applied to. They got back pretty quickly, got through the interviews. They gave me an offer. And same as Lizzie, I thought the money was pretty good and the duties of the job sounded interesting. So I accepted and then spent that summer in Iowa, just doing work with what would become the automation team that I'm working on now. I really enjoyed my internship, and at the end of the summer, they gave me a full-time offer, and so I accepted it, and then enjoyed not having to worry about job stuff for the rest of my senior year. And this is still my first job, so I don't have any complex story or anything. So that's about it for me.
All right, Sydney Bean.
So let's see. After I graduated, I went to Russia for, maybe 10 or so months. I got a grant through the college, the Mohan Award. And I loved that. It was an amazing opportunity. It helped me develop my language skills. But then I came back to Iowa, and I felt like a lot of what I had kind of studied in school and set myself up for was a lot there would have been a lot more opportunity for me in a larger city like Washington, D.C. or something. But that's not really where I wanted to live. I really liked Iowa and kind of wanted to try and find something around here. So then I kind of floated. I worked as a blackjack dealer for a little while. I worked in restaurants. I joined a team of 3 attorneys that were starting their own law firm. And they were really focused on criminal justice work. And so that was a really interesting and challenging job. But as a startup, their firm doesn't exist anymore. And so I needed to find something different. And I was ready for something that offered a little bit more stability. And Nationwide, being a large company, was able to offer that. I am in my 3rd role at Nationwide. I started in sales, and then I was in field product, and then I moved to the role I'm in now.
Nice. All right. Last but not least, Phil.
During my time at Grinnell, I really changed a lot in my trajectory, kind of like what I wanted to do and what I felt passionate about. So I started out as a political science major, which I ended up pulling through with. It's something I really like doing. That gets me excited. But during like the end of my first year / during my second year, I realized that what really got me excited was organic chemistry. And I think there were a lot of faculty that were instrumental in doing that. As a first generation college student, I had no idea what I was getting myself into with college in the first place. And so like Professor Jacobson, Kathy Jacobson, or Eric Leggins really were formative in like changing my trajectory. And so I knew I wanted to go into grad school because research was really getting me excited. Chemistry was getting me excited. And so I took an REU over the summer after my 3rd year at the University of Minnesota with their Lando program, which is generally just a chemistry program for undergraduates from small liberal arts schools generally. And so I applied for grad schools after that, and decided on the University of Chicago for a variety of reasons. So one reason was definitely I wanted to live in the city. Not a major reason, though. The major reason for me was that the person that I met at University of Chicago, the professor, really was somebody who I really wanted to work for generally in terms of the research that he was doing, but also because he was very much involved in teaching, which is something I also believe to be kind of one of my passions now as a graduate student. And so I kind of like joined my lab after my time at Grinnell. Essentially came in early in July and got my feet wet with lab work and took the courses. Ended up passing my candidacy in my 2nd year, and I'm now basically just working in lab all day. And so I have another 2 years now.
Nice. All right, so now that we've all covered the paths we took to get to where we are right now, we're going to go along the theme of the podcast and talk about what a day in our lives is like. So we're each going to describe what our typical day is pre-COVID and also how COVID might have affected our jobs. So for me, I don't really have a typical day because it varies depending on where we are in a project. Most of the projects we work on are longer term. It takes about a year from start to finish, from when we kind of ideate what kind of model we want to build to when we actually implement it. So my typical day varies from whether we're in that ideation phase and we're talking to people and bouncing around ideas, or we're in the data gathering phase and we're doing a lot of coding. When we're in the modeling phase, it's a lot of working with different software to build different types of models and comparing and contrasting the results. And then when we're in that final implementation stage, it's again a lot of meetings and figuring out how to put the system in place and coding that up. COVID hasn't affected my job all that much, other than I'm working from home instead of in an office. But the coding obviously works just as well from home as it did when I was in an office space. And I still have just as many meetings, but they're all via Zoom, which was weird at first, but we definitely got used to. Actually, I guess we don't use Zoom. We use Microsoft Teams is what Nationwide uses. But I really haven't seen any change in like my productivity or the general work I've done. I don't think so. I'm very lucky in that sense. Insurance is a great place to be during a pandemic, it turns out, because it's very stable. Nationwide was very prepared for things like this to happen. So COVID hasn't really affected me as much as I was concerned it would.
I'm pretty much in the same boat as you, Lizzie. COVID has virtually not affected the way I do my job or my productivity at all. Since my day-to-day life or my day-to-day work life was pretty much already just sit at a computer writing code for 8 hours a day. That can easily be done from home in the office. I mean, heck, the previous team I was on, every Friday they'd all be working from home, so like it really made no difference. I guess what's a little unique about the way Principal does its we do our software development is that we do it all in pairs, just to kind of make sure that everybody has a good sense of what's going on, and that there's like I guess more shared accountability for any code that's written, so that it's not just one person who becomes an expert in a given thing. So that if that person ever leaves or is sick for a day, then the whole system doesn't come crumbling down because of that one little bit of code. But yeah, in terms of how COVID has affected my job, I'm also pretty lucky in that I was in a pretty stable position and didn't really have to worry about it affecting my standing or the way I did my job. So pretty unaffected, all things considered.
Nice, good deal. Eric, what about you?
So my job is probably a bit more consistent than Lizzie's job in terms of the day-to-day, even though we both do, data science-y kinds of stuff. I would say my job mostly revolves around data engineering and data visualization. Data engineering as I, clean and manipulate my data sets and add new data elements to the current data sets that I'm working with, and do ad hoc data requests, etc. And data visualization, I own a bunch of like analytics tools that Nationwide uses for automation, and so I spend a lot of my time building out new views and basically just making pretty little data visualizations. And I too, like Lizzie and Niko, I'm pretty fortunate that COVID, is not really like my job can be done pretty effectively remotely. And so I've had the fortune of, my day-to-day productivity and, job responsibilities and everything not really changing that much. So I do admit I miss, seeing my friends around the office, being able to, walk around and say hi to Lizzie and Sydney while I was in office. But definitely fortunate to, still have my job and to have my, responsibilities relatively unchanged.
All right, Sydney, what about you?
So I mean, to kind of echo what everyone else said, right? Like the work we have doesn't change because there's a pandemic going on. So much of my day has changed. So I still have the same work. There's a little bit of influence in what I do from the pandemic. We have like looking into COVID-19 related losses would be an example of that. But mostly, I don't know. I feel I used to go to work and I would always talk to you, Lizzie, and I would always talk to you, Eric, and don't always talk to you guys every day anymore because we used to sit right near each other, and now I'm at home. So in that way, I feel, at least for me, I feel my routine has been disrupted. Not that it's bad or good, but just kind of learning how to cope with that, learning how to stay social, stay safe, stay sane, really have to be cognizant to take my breaks, take my lunch, because the time will just run together. I mean, my cat will come and say hi and bug me sometimes, but other than that, I don't really have the kind of stimulation or the interruptions that happen naturally when you're working around a lot of other people. So I kind of miss that. But I would say the work that I have to do on the computer, my routine, coming in, checking emails, those things haven't changed. It's just the social aspect that's really different for me.
Yeah, I do miss our trio, Sydney. That was a good time.
It was so fun.
It was fun. I also empathize with the cat situation. Prancer is on my lap all day long, and I've sent a lot of JFK ZZZZZ messages to coworkers, and I'm like, sorry, that was my cat. All right, Phil, what about you?
I can kind of echo a lot of things that you guys have been saying. I think my work was affected in different ways. Cats definitely play a bigger role in my life now. They have also become much more loving since we don't leave them alone all day anymore. Um, and yes, I mean, the social aspect is always kind of something that I've been missing, definitely. I really only see my partner during the day. But in terms of work, so my work day usually used to look in the way before COVID was that I would go into lab around 8 a.m. generally, sometimes later, sometimes a little earlier. That's the great thing about grad school. You're very flexible in that. And I would do lab work, and I would have to also divide my time up with working in teaching. So I chose to be taking part in either TAing or serving as a TA for the collaborative learning program in the Department of Chemistry. And so that would generally take up time during different times of the week. For me, that was usually Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then preparing problem tests for students on a Wednesday. So that was just something that you have to kind of manage on your own when you do research, when you do teaching. COVID really changed everything. One was that there was no more meetings outside of that you have to attend, so that was really something that took some time away from other distractions. But my research has to be done in lab. Unlike some other people, I can't just code and run my reactions in silico in a computer. And so I really was not able to do anything in lab by myself. So what I was, keeping myself busy with was one, the teaching aspect that went remote. We were basically doing everything over Zoom. We had to change a lot of the infrastructure of how we're conducting our workshops for collaborative learning, which took a lot of work. We had to train our teaching assistants differently, and so overall, I think I kept myself busy a lot with that teaching aspect, but I think our lab also got into a routine where we had a group meeting once per day, and you'd hear a chemistry presentation for an hour by a group member. So I think that was something that really kept us on task and really connected to the science. Um, and I mean, currently we're back in lab already. So the way that works is that we are on a 2-shift system where you have 2 people per lab room. They're present, of course, wearing masks all the time, and we only get 7.5 hours per day. So I start at 7:30, I leave at 3 p.m., and then the next shift comes in from 3:30 to 11 p.m. And so that's kind of like the way we've been working around the pandemic.
All right, sounds like you're adapting. So our next question is, what are your favorite and least favorite things about your job? So for me personally, I really like the people that I work with. My favorite thing is definitely my coworkers. It's different now that we don't have the trio day to day, walking around each other's desks all the time. But I still feel like I get to bond with people over Microsoft Teams video chats. But I just really like it's a really passionate group of nerds who just love what they're doing, and are all insanely intelligent. And I feel like I get to learn from them every day. And yeah, it's just a really good working relationship that we have. My least favorite things about my job. Oh goodness. I really, really like my job. I guess if I had to pick something I didn't like, sometimes it can get really monotonous when we're in like the data gathering phase of a project and it's just like rote coding and like you're just sitting at your computer typing and Googling functions all day. Sometimes it can get kind of boring. But usually that's not a lot of the time that I'm stuck in that. And it's a lot of problem solving, which I enjoy, but sometimes it can get mildly monotonous, I would say is my only complaint. Niko, what about you?
My favorite part about my job is that pretty much all day I just get to solve puzzles, and
Nice.
I mean, granted, not like jigsaw puzzles, which actually we do sometimes during lunch breaks, but that's completely different story. Yeah, basically all day, all I've been doing is just solving puzzles and through writing software, and it writing software is the means by which I get to solve these puzzles, and that's just something I like to do. Um, always have, always will. So it's kind of one of the good things about my job. For me, there's two things that I'm not super happy about with my job. First thing is that um, I just, as much as I like solving puzzles, I mean, in terms of like working with finances and stuff, I don't have like any real personal attachment to like the actual work and how it's affecting people. Um, I feel kind of a little bit removed from it, and just that I'm not making as much of an impact as I'd like to
Mm.
in like the bigger sense of the world. And also, it would be nice if I could channel my ability to like write code into something that I'm more passionate about. I mean, yeah, I'm passionate about solving puzzles and like problem solving like that, but I don't know, maybe something that is maybe a little more interesting, and being able to combine those two things would make work seem less like work and more just like having a good time. The second thing, and something that I've noticed is pretty prevalent in the software development world, is just the general gatekeeping that I see a lot out of white uh, men and people in the industry.
Mm.
Um, it's it's luckily it's not like super prevalent uh, at the company I'm at now, but I still see it on a day to day basis, just like uh, men talking over their female counterparts,
Mhm.
even if there's like no real reason for them to do so, and a lot of women's voices aren't getting as heard as they might uh, they maybe should be. It's an ongoing problem that we've had talks about within our company and our department, but still an issue, and something that I hope to see go away at some point in the future. But
Yeah,
just the
that's a
fact
really
that
good point.
we're even, yeah, the fact that it's even being addressed at all is shows that we're at least making steps in the right direction and acknowledging the problem. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's just something I've noticed in the software development industry.
Yeah, admitting you have a problem is the first step to solving it. So it is good that we're having those conversations. That's a really good call out. Eric, what about you?
I would echo what Niko said about liking my job being sort of a problem solving of sorts. In coding, you're trying to get the right function, or manipulate the data just the right way, or in a visualization you're just kind of twisting things around. It's like a Rubik's cube until you finally find a view that you're happy with, and you just kind of like play with it. I really like sort of exploring and having the creativity to and autonomy to kind of do my own thing. But then I would also echo what Niko said, where I kind of I'm not really attached to insurance. And I think if I could pick one thing that I want to do, is I'd want to be able to sort of pick more what to apply my talents to. And then also, like, working for a big corporation, there's a lot of meetings and not a lot of communication sometimes, and I feel like there's some projects that I end up on that are just kind of, they just seem unuseful or aren't a good match for my particular talent pool. I think that's just inherent in corporate work, but that'd be my positives and negatives.
What would you want to apply your data skills to, Eric? Like, what kind of projects would you ideally want to be working on? Not even related to like nationwide or insurance or anything.
Yeah, I mean, I like data visualization. I like data engineering. I'd like to get a chance to work on more modeling and like regression stuff, because that's what I'm used to. I mean, my entirety at Grinnell, being an econ major, was just like regression analysis, stuff like that. And then I really do like modeling. I took, a modeling course at Grinnell and a data science course at Grinnell, which both used modeling. But my job kind of pens me more in the, data engineering, interacting with data systems, visualization area, which I'm not complaining about at all. But I would like to do more data science personally.
I think you'd really like working in like a different field too, like working on like video games or something. I think you would find really engaging.
Yeah, and like I personally, where my eyes are for the future of my career is perhaps something in the like mental health sector. That's something I'm very passionate about and would like to be able to combine my data abilities with a field that I think really could benefit from some data driven analysis and try to help people's quality of lives improve using data.
Nice. Well, good segue. Speaking of quality of life, our next frequently asked question is, what is your work-life balance like?
Work-life balance. I feel like Nationwide affords a lot of work-life balance. There's definitely never an expectation for me to work more than 40 hours a week. It's what is it, Lizzie?
37.75.
Yeah, something like that.
7.75 hours per day, which is a fancy way of saying don't work 8 hours.
So, I mean, for me, I feel like I have time that I'm able to do things I'm really into, like forage for food. I like to be really active. So, being outside, going for walks, paddle boarding, those kinds of things. I feel right after Grinnell, I was kind of really focused on what are things that the work is going to be the most interesting. So I was really focused on what kind of work will be interesting. And I did interesting work, but then it became, what kind of lifestyle do I actually want? And Nationwide has really allowed me to have more of that work-life balance, have job security, have health insurance. A lot of those things I wasn't able to do working at a startup or working in the restaurant industry, but now I'm able to have that.
Before quarantine, I think I had at least personally, I think I had a pretty good work-life balance. Principal does a good job of encouraging its employees to take the time off that they need. We have what's called flex time off, where you just talk to your manager or your supervisor or whatever, and just give them a little bit of notice, like, hey, I'm going to take a couple of days off here, or I'll take a week off here, and as long as you gave them enough time to react and just account for you being gone, then you're totally fine to just take that time off. So yeah, that's one kind of nice thing about principal. I like to stay active. Just recently, I've been running just because I don't want to risk going into an enclosed gym. So just running outside as much as I can. But I think when I first started out, my biggest concern was that I didn't know what to do when I didn't have like school as like the central thing schedule as like the schedule of my life. So like when I didn't have classes, I didn't know like, hey, should I be working? No one's telling me that I need to go home, but should I still be here? I in my first job I would end up working like 9-hour days just because I didn't know that like I didn't know if I should still be there, if I was going to get fired because I'm the new guy and I'm not working like twice as hard as everybody else. Maybe that I can chalk a little bit of that up to inexperience, to imposter syndrome, which is very real in
So real.
when you're first starting out. But yeah. But over time, I can't say the imposter syndrome goes away over time, but it feels. I don't know. I've been experiencing it less as time goes on, but the work-life balance has also developed pretty significantly since I started working. after college.
Yeah, I would actually agree that I think my work-life balance improved after Grinnell, because at Grinnell I definitely like ran myself so hard. Like I was just studying and doing all the activities all the time, and I like never had a minute to breathe. And I remember my first day when I came home from work at Nationwide, I came home at like 4:30 and I was like, I have nothing I need to do. This is amazing. And I feel like I've had so much more time to like find hobbies and stuff. Like I do a lot of painting now, which is something I never had time to do at Grinnell. And I do a lot more yoga and like social dancing and stuff. So I think my work-life balance has definitely improved post-college, but that's just me.
The old days of social dancing.
I know, that's true. We can't do that anymore, but there was a time. Phil, what about you?
Yeah, 100% agree. Like, I also found that at Grinnell, it was pretty much, at least for the last year for me, it was really hard in terms of getting all the work done that I needed to do to get through classes. I felt at times I wasn't necessarily the best at time management. And when I started grad school, it was completely different. I think that for the most part, things were getting done within the day. So I just usually worked 12-hour days between lab and teaching and taking classes. And so I think it's also one of the big things that I learned from Grinnell. I think it taught me how to really push myself and to really cram a lot of things into very, very little time, because I was doing things outside of, classes, other involvement, as well as, doing some other things in terms of like labs and everything. So I think that overall, the work-life balance, especially once I was done in the classes in grad school, is a lot better. Um, I feel that I fill my time more efficiently. I can, do other things on the outside, hobbies that I otherwise would not have been able to do. So I'm currently volunteering at a dog shelter. In terms of COVID times, not so much, but currently just doing that online. But before, I was going pretty much every weekend to walk dogs and everything. So I think it definitely changed in terms of what I was doing before at Grinnell.
That's so nice. Makes me want to volunteer at a dog shelter. Okay, I think I'm going to combine these next two frequently asked questions into one. So the two questions are, what skill has been most useful to have in your career? And the second question is, what did you learn or do at Grinnell that helped you in your career? And I'm going to say those can be the same thing. So if your most useful skill was something you learned at Grinnell, you can combine those into one thing. So for me personally, I know there's the trope everyone says of learning how to learn is what you do at Grinnell. And it's so cheesy, but it's also so true. Like being able to learn on your feet and be flexible is such an important life skill, because no matter how closely related your job is to what you studied, there's always going to be new things you need to learn. So being able to learn things quickly is just invaluable in any career.
Yeah, I think that is a great one. I would also say that Grinnell, just being college in a lot of ways, taught me so much about interacting with different people from different backgrounds, as well as how to advocate for myself and advocate for my ideas, both of which have really served me well as I've kind of switched between unrelated careers, unrelated hobbies, being able to meet new people, get along with new people, understand people who haven't had the same experiences I have had, as well as to advocate for myself and for my ideas in a way that hopefully progresses whatever I'm working on. So at Nationwide, to help kind of progress our business team.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so the next frequently asked question was, what do you wish you had done at Grinnell?
I think that for me, what I wanted to do that I didn't get to do was study abroad. I set up to study abroad, but I think that at the end of the day, um, one program fell through. The second program I didn't really decide on, applying for. in the spring quarter. So fall quarter, I was all signed up for, but it fell through because the program got canceled. But in the spring, I wanted to try again, but then I noticed that in order to get all my requirements for a chemistry major, I really needed to buckle down because I was relatively late to chemistry. And so unfortunately I couldn't go abroad, and that's really something I regret. Also not taking enough courses outside of my majors. So I wish I had taken some more sociology or GWSS or English courses, which I didn't get to take. And I think that's something that I really, 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 really regret.
Yeah, I love taking courses outside of my major. All the GWS courses I took were just snaps all the way. Sydney, what about you?
I really enjoyed a lot of what I did at Grinnell. I guess I would just throw a little bit of advice of things that I think were really helpful for me. So opportunities to interact with professors outside of the class. So for me, being on the committee of academic standing was just a really great way for me to meet faculty and interact with them in a new way, which was really helpful for developing relationships and letters of recommendation. So I would encourage anyone to look for things similar to that. And then also the Grinnell Prison Program was really impactful for my worldview and causes that I care about. And Grinnell just has a whole host of opportunities to really expand your worldview. And you can't do everything, but try and do what you can to challenge yourself.
That's a really good call out. I wish I had done that prison program. Eric, what about you?
I'd echo what Phil said about going abroad. I didn't set up going abroad, but I think I wish that I'd, seriously considered it a little bit more. It didn't quite like it. It just seemed like kind of an uncomfortable decision for me, and I wasn't sure, honestly, given like mental health and other issues that I was dealing with at the time, that going abroad was the right choice for me. But looking back, I kind of wish that I had done that and had sort of pushed myself out of my own, comfort zone there and gone and tried to, experience the world in unique ways. And speaking of like uniqueness at Grinnell, I think it's just really important to recognize, the sort of diversity and the, vibrant set of people that attend Grinnell College. It's like the only time in your life, that you're going to have a community like that. And I think it's just really important to, never take any day for granted and always try to, get what you can out of that community. Besides that, in like a work standpoint, I do wish that I'd done more like campus involvement, whether it be, stuff related to data science or economics, or just, like join more clubs or whatever. I was pretty intensely focused on soccer and kind of, heads down focused on my sport. But it would have been pretty cool to, get involved in Dazzle or something like that. That is, a pretty high level resource that would have helped my career, and helped me, sort out data science a little bit more. That isn't something that you can really get outside of the college. Like they're great resources for people who really want to learn any sort of skill, and you can find that out in the real world, but it's not going to be as simple and as convenient as it is at Grinnell.
Yeah, definitely Grinnell is a really unique time to get involved in all that. Niko, you want to chime in?
Yeah. So I guess for me, I loved playing baseball at Grinnell. I just love the sport. I love playing it. I just loved competing and playing the game, and I had so much fun out there. Um, Only problem for me was that as much as I loved like building up a bond with my teammates and just becoming a good friend with all the people I played with, um, I don't know. I feel like I didn't do as good of a job as I could have branching out and talking to other people. I'm sure everyone, all of you guys probably aware of that one table in the dining hall that the entire baseball team would sit at every single meal, and that didn't really lend itself to like inviting new people in and just meeting other people and talking to them. So kind of wish I'd done that. Um, as nice as it would have been for me to study abroad, I don't think that was ever in the cards for me, just given how much time I had to put into sports and whatnot. But one thing I did regret not really educating myself on and like learning about or even caring about at all while I was in college was just literally anything on like social justice. I was so underinformed and unaware of like almost anything that was going on at all times, and that was more of a personal issue for me, less of a result of less of like a just like all athletes or all whatever. That was just something I wish I had learned up on a little more and talked to people about because I feel like I could have learned a lot from a place that was filled with so many people from so many different backgrounds, and now I'm in Des Moines, and so I don't know, it's a lot less diverse here, and I don't feel like I'd have those same kinds of conversations and hear those kind of viewpoints that I would have in college.
That is a perfect segue into our last question, which is what role does civic engagement and service play in your life?
Thought you might like that.
Yes, I appreciate that, Niko. So for me personally, I served as what was my title? I think I was the Grinnell and Des Moines events co-chair was my title, but basically I planned events for various Grinnell alumni in the area. And several of those were volunteer events. I've also planned volunteer events for my company, just on my team at work, and also for the Young Professionals Network within Nationwide. So I've done a lot of volunteering since graduating, and I've really enjoyed it. There's a lot of really good organizations in the area. I also tutor in my free time, which we're transferring to tutoring virtually, which is going to be really interesting. I'm excited to see how that pans out. But I tutor math to high school students, which is a lot of fun. Also, recently, I've attended several protests with Niko and Eric, and that's been both enjoyable for me and I think really impactful for the community as well.
I've been to a couple protests as well, and this is such an awesome time for rediscovering that spark and that interest in social justice causes. I would say my worldview was hugely developed while at Grinnell, and so I've continued to try and find ways to incorporate a lot of the things that I'm passionate about into advocacy. While at Nationwide, it's definitely a business environment. So really trying to find ways to do that outside of work. Although Lizzie, I feel we're finding a way to kind of bring in some things. We're doing a book club we're going to cover a book on how to be anti-racist. I don't know if it'll be that book, but from anti-racist topics, and trying to get discussion at work about that. But for things outside of work, I'm really passionate about the environment. I love to volunteer with Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation, just trying to learn more and understand the state. I'm not from Iowa, but this is my home now, and just learning that less than 1% of Iowa, or maybe it is 1% of Iowa land is available for public access, has really driven my passion for how do we get more public lands available, especially it's so important right now during COVID. I also love to volunteer with Iowa Public Radio. I think they're great. And just finding different causes and being really active is a huge part of my life. And I've especially lately have felt really excited to be engaged.
Yeah, I'm excited for that book club, Sydney. It's going to be fun.
So I think one thing that's important, at least for me, so I studied a lot of political economy, and just tried to understand capitalism, various economic organization systems, and like anti-racist theory, all that. And I think it's just important that you don't stop when you graduate. Like, yeah, you're not, surrounded by professors who are assigning you, books for you to educate yourself all the time. I think it's really important that you don't let that torch go out. You don't let that hunger, stop. Like you definitely have to keep educating yourself, and you have to, constantly keep trying to improve the world and make the world better than the world that your parents lived in. I also think, at least for me, like I grew up with a lot of privilege, and I realized that there's a lot of privilege that has carried me to the spot where I am right now. And so I think it's important to use that privilege to try to help underprivileged, or vulnerable populations, whether that be, going out and buying a book from a Black-owned bookstore, or, donating money to, like for me, I donated a fair amount of money to the Navajo Nation during their coronavirus crisis. I'm from New Mexico, so that was, a cause that was important to me. So I just think it's important that you use your, platform and your resources, for other people, and you don't stop just because you'd left Grinnell.
That was such a good answer, Eric. Niko, do you want to add?
Yeah, I can add. Don't know if I'll be able to add on as eloquently as Eric did, because that was pretty fantastic. But yeah, I guess that in terms of civic engagement in college, like, was virtually non-existent. I was very unaware of what was going on, and I mean, today I still think I am pretty unaware as to what's going on. But I like to think that I'm at least making steps in the right direction. For me, the biggest thing that I've been able to do is just like take what knowledge I've learned and the opinions I have, and just at least talk to my family and just like the people I care about, and just help them know what what's going on out here, because I don't know, like all my family is in Hawaii, and issues of civic engagement and social justice and stuff are wildly different in Hawaii, just because it's so isolated from the rest of the United States. And I don't know, I've got a lot of older family members who are, I guess we could say, less liberal in their viewpoints. And I don't know if it necessarily comes from a place of hate, a place of just ignorance, or just a lack of knowledge. So I'm doing my best to just continually educate myself, making sure that if my parents have any questions, I can answer them, because uh, they're doing a great job at trying to stay educated, and I just hope to help them out and anybody else in any way I can through just continually educating myself and the people around me.
Yeah, that's
Really
awesome.
all I got.
Education does not stop after college. It's a lifelong endeavor.
It's a movement, not a moment.
Yeah, exactly. It's a marathon, not a sprint. What matters the most is, what you do when no one's looking.
So true, so true. And with that, we have tackled all of our frequently asked questions from students. So thank you guys so much for your time and answering all these questions. And thank you, Grinnell student, for listening to us.
Thank you, Grinnell student.
Thank you.
Thank you, Grinnell student.
Thanks.
I'm definitely taking these out at the end.